Oh.
Well, not many finish fights against the Red Ring.
Yeah, how do you have beef with them, Mr. Dispatcher?
Yeah, we know this Robert guy is a front. Who are you, really?
I answered this question incorrectly. As soon as I made my choice, I realized it. My character said the wrong thing, and it would have terrible repercussions for the remainder of the story. Oh, okay, let me back up. Robert Robertson used to protect the city as Mecha Man, but his mech suit was destroyed and its main energy source was stolen. At his lowest point, he was recruited by another hero, Blonde Blazer, to work for the Superhero Dispatching Network, or SDN. He now works at a desk job, dispatching other superheroes all across the city. His team is made up of reformed villains, some of whom he had fought in the past. They don't know who he used to be. Several days into this new job, he gets drinks with his coworkers, only for the night to end with a bar fight and late-night tacos. As the evening wears on, speculations begin to swirl. Who is Robert, really? Dispatch is a game. I bought it on Steam. I used an Xbox controller. It's also on PS5. But saying I played Dispatch feels kind of weird. I beat Dispatch. It doesn't feel right. Plenty of games take inspiration from the world of film. From the way their stories are structured to how their cutscenes play out, cinematic storytelling is a natural fit for a lot of games. Dispatch takes things a step further though. Several steps further. I can't think of a game that owes this much to the world of film and television. The project was even originally envisioned as a live-action series. A playthrough of Dispatch feels like watching a season of TV, complete with episode breaks and a UI reminiscent of a streaming service. Around half the game is made up of cutscenes. The animation team and the voice cast did a fantastic job bringing this crass and clever script to life. They spared no expense with this thing. The game offers many decisions for the player to make, and plenty of opportunities for them to succeed or fail. But there's a criticism that looms over Dispatch. Its choices don't matter. But they do. Sort of. Dispatch is attempting to do two things. It is a choose-your-own-adventure story where the player can tailor their experience to their own sensibilities or replay it multiple times to explore every option. Simultaneously, Dispatch presents one single story with a main character who behaves a certain way. No matter what happens, the story has a satisfying progression. These two goals oppose one another, which leads to interesting friction. If Dispatch is trying to tell one story, why have the story branch at all? Why is it on Steam and not Netflix? Who is Robert, really? Dispatch is divided into two halves. One half of the game is the actual dispatching. During these sequences, the screen mimics Robert's computer monitor while he will receive distress calls from around the city. Based on the description of the emergency, the player sends out the best heroes for the job, though he'll rarely have a perfect fit. Add in some hacking puzzles and you've got yourself a simple yet engaging management sim. Then there's the story half. Robert will be put in situations where he has to respond. The player picks a dialogue line or action which alters the current scene. Every sequence in Dispatch has some sort of branching dialogue, which both keeps the player engaged and makes them think about what's coming next. There are also sequences with QuickTime events, though these are reserved for the action-packed fight scenes. All of the decisions in Dispatch fall somewhere on this scale, one I'm dubbing the journey versus destination scale, patent pending. On one side of the scale, we have journey choices. These are decisions that affect how the current scene plays out, but do not have any real consequence in the following scenes. They affect minor characterization, but not much else. Towards the end of the first day on the job, Robert gets a call about an altercation at a donut shop. One of the heroes on his team, Invisigal, goes to handle the situation. When she arrives, she asks him what kind of donuts he likes. He can respond one of three ways.
Those, long ones with the cream inside.
Oh, you like a dick donut?
No. They're called...
You love big, long, cream-filled dick donuts. I got it, dude. You like your dick donuts up in your throat, in your ass, both.
If the player picks another donut, she'll have a different comment.
Just a plain-ass glazed donut. You happy?
Not as happy as you with that glaze all over you, huh? You just slap that donut around on your face a little before you put it in your mouth.
Regardless of what the player picks, the scene after this will be the same. The donut joke is a way to personalize each playthrough. It affects the journey of the narrative, but has no bearing on its destination. Later in the donut shop scene, a brawl breaks out between Invisigal and the thief, which ends in a standoff. The thief and the donut shop owner point laser cannons at each other. Robert has a choice. Does he order Invisigal to take out the thief, or the donut shop owner? On my first playthrough, I told her to take out the thief. When I did, this happened.
Granny doesn't even know how to shoot that thing. Take out the thief first. He's the only one with his finger on the trigger.
You know what? It's my life on the line.
I'm done listening to you. The thing's gonna blow that man's
Arm off and this whole building with me in it. F off, I'm disarming the device.
No, Invisigal, that's a direct order.
The fight didn't go so great. The thief got away and the shop got trashed. But it could have gone worse. Back at headquarters, Robert and Invisigal have an argument that also could have gone worse. Robert meets with Blonde Blazer where he can either cover for Invisigal or rat her out. At first, it seems like the decision to take out the thief cascaded into a series of story beats. But if Robert directs her to take out the donut shop owner instead, this will happen.
Okay, disarm Granny before the thing blows his face off. It looks super unstable.
So your expert opinion is to
attack the client.
I did things your way and it turned to shit. I'm taking out the guy who's been trying to kill me.
That wasn't a suggestion, it's a direct one.
The fight doesn't go so great. She punches him in the break room. He explains the bloody nose. No matter what the player picks, the outcome will be the same. This choice, which seems like it would be rather important, is actually just a journey choice. This sort of railroading accomplishes a couple of things. It allows the developers to keep the story progressing how they want to. It allows for some personalization while keeping each character true to themselves. What's important is that Invisigal makes a joke at Robert's expense. It doesn't matter which joke she makes. These can have greater importance as well. At one point, Robert is asked what he'll do when he meets his arch-nemesis, and he can respond in a number of ways. This decision won't affect any of the following scenes, but it does inform Robert's character. Additionally, the decisions that don't change anything help illustrate what Robert is up against. He's trying to lead the most dysfunctional team at a dysfunctional company. These issues can't be changed with simple dialogue choices. Robert can only do so much by himself. At this point in the narrative, Invisigal is difficult to work with. She's not exactly a team player. For her arc to make sense, she has to disagree with whatever decision is made. This moment has a greater impact if the player is making the call, instead of Robert. It doesn't matter that the decision is of little consequence. What matters is that the player made it in the first place. Journey choices add up to paint a picture of Robert in the player's mind. Even if there aren't any mathematical repercussions, it does affect how the player views the character at the center of the story. It opens up the doors to possibilities that the game may or may not allow. Not every choice falls on either extreme of the journey versus destination scale. Dispatch has several decisions that have repercussions, but don't change the overarching story. In the first episode, shortly after Robert meets Blazer and before he takes a job at SDN, they go to a bar. She excuses herself for a moment, after which Robert is accosted by three heroes. Flambae, the one with fire powers, taunts Robert. He has two options: throw a glass of water or throw a glass of pure alcohol. Throwing the water makes him slam into the bar, and throwing the alcohol makes him burn uncontrollably. At the start of the next episode, Robert is waiting in the lobby at SDN, and who should walk through the door but Flambae. He will either be missing his front tooth or his eyebrows, based on what Robert threw at him the night before. It's a funny touch, though Flambae's appearance doesn't affect anything that happens later on. This ultimately isn't a story about Robert and Flambae. There's one decision that feels like it should have huge ramifications, but it also falls in the middle of this scale. At the end of the third episode, Blazer will instruct Robert to cut one member of the team. Two heroes are tied for last place: Batboy Conman Sonar and Merciless Mercenary Coupe. Whoever is cut is never available in the dispatching shifts again. This decision alters aspects of the game. It changes the dynamic of the team. Sonar and Coupe have different stats, so it affects which hero gets sent on what mission. But then again, whoever remains on the team doesn't add much to the story. Not really. They're still around, they'll have the occasional line of dialogue, but for the most part, they fade into the background. Sonar and Coupe are narratively interchangeable with each other. There is one aspect of this decision that is pretty important, and it's a spoiler, so go to this time to skip it if you want. Whoever gets cut from the team will join forces with the main antagonist of the story. They will serve as the final boss of the dispatching sequences, and if you play your cards right, they can be re-recruited to the team if the player desires. This is the ending where Coupe got cut. pay attention to how they refer to her.
Did they earn a pardon?
Is that my call?
You're the one that'll have to work with them.
They don't use her name. They use a gender-neutral pronoun. This exact same dialogue works for both her and Sonar's ending. Both characters fit cleanly into either slot. The decision to cut a certain hero, and a later decision to recruit another hero, do affect the story, although it will lead to almost identical experiences. It affects the destination, even though that destination won't be all that different. So, what's the point then? When Invisigal ignores the player's command in the donut shop scene, it feels more impactful because she's ignoring your order, not Robert's. The same thing applies to this choice. Even if the story will be the same, it feels more important because it's a decision that you made. And this choice is tough. Both options seem bad. It makes the player think ahead. It makes them reevaluate the team's dynamic. It makes them consider the future of the story. All of it will change with a single button press, a single interactive element. Dispatch wants to give the player the sensation of making a huge decision. It just so happens that they have a giant safety net beneath them while they make it. Finally, there's the other end of the scale. Dispatch's story can change in two major ways, through Robert's romantic interests and his effectiveness as a leader. As far as romance goes, Robert can develop feelings for either Blonde Blazer or Invisigal. The main destination choice the player has to make happens in the 4th episode. Robert receives 2 invitations, one from Blazer asking him to dinner, and one from Invisigal inviting him to the movies. Choosing one will set Robert on the path to that character's romantic ending. Although, it's more complicated than that. In Blazer's case, getting dinner with her will open up the possibility for romance. But after that, the player needs to make a series of decisions to build their relationship. There are a few occasions to set them up before this too, most notably kissing her in the end of episode 1. Blazer's romance works as a series of if-then statements, a small collection of destination choices. Invisigal works in a similar way. Meeting her at the theater will put them on a romantic track, and the player will need to do and say the right things after that. Notably, there are 2 huge destination choices in episode 7 that determine if she and Robert will become a couple or not. The other major story change is all about Invisigal. Will Robert encourage her to embrace her future as a hero, or will she return to her villainous ways? Dispatch has a secret counter that keeps track of Robert's positive and negative interactions with Invisigal. After she decks Robert in the face, he can tell Blazer the truth or cover for her. Telling the truth will lose a point, while covering will net nothing. In a later scene, Invisigal contemplates quitting the team. Robert notices the same perpetrator from the donut shop is close by. He has 3 ways to convince her to go. One response will add a point, one response will lose a point, and one response won't do anything. She will still go no matter what, that doesn't change. But how she's convinced is a secret destination choice. Succeeding at QuickTime events and clearing certain hacking challenges will either add or subtract points to this counter too. If the player sends Invisigal on a successful dispatch, that will give or take a point, depending on if the dispatch was successful. Upgrading her powers will add 5 points, as will accepting her invitation to the movies. If the player earns at least 45 points, it shows that Robert has been a good mentor. Invisigal's actions will be heroic in the final act. Fall short of that number, and she will instead be, less heroic. Shout out to Zero Sum Games for the stat breakdown, link in the description. While it might not seem like it at first, there are destination choices littered all throughout Dispatch, both with the romance paths and Invisigal's character arc. At its core, Dispatch is a story about Robert and Invisigal. It's just not clear, at least at first, which choices change the destination, and which ones simply change the journey. But what about Robert himself? What about the main character? There are certain aspects of Robert's character that cannot change. He's nice to his dog. He speaks in a deadpan and sarcastic way. He treats his dispatching job seriously. Meanwhile, his romantic interests can change. His ability as a leader can change. And his preferences can change, even if they don't affect subsequent scenes. These choices, even the ones without any immediate consequences, compound on each other. Partway through the game, the player has a clear idea of who their Robert is. And this is where I got mixed up. After Robert's mech suit is destroyed, he hangs up the Mecha Man persona and starts his job at SDN. Royd, the jovial engineer and all-around chill dude, works to rebuild the suit to no avail. Robert claims he wants to become a hero again, though those chances grow more slim by the day. I thought Robert's arc was going to be about leaving that part of himself behind. All of the trauma associated with the suit, all the responsibilities, all the sacrifices, that's in the past. Instead, he would find his new calling. Being a good leader, mentor, and tactician is just as heroic as stepping into a mech suit. He doesn't need to be Mecha Man to be a hero. Several days into his new job, Robert Robertson is invited to get drinks with his coworkers, only for the night to end with a bar fight and late-night tacos. As the night wears on, speculations begin to swirl. Who is Robert? Really?
It's a rare thing in life. A fresh start, clean slate. You all know. Every room you walk into, your reputation precedes. I walked into SDN and suddenly I was me. Just me. We have the chance to leave the past behind. I don't care who you were 5 years ago, 2 months ago, yesterday. I care about who you are right now. And right now, I'm Robert.
As soon as I selected it, I knew that this was the wrong thing to say. Instead of renouncing his old identity, it came across like he was hiding his alter ego. Despite my headcanon, this part of Robert's personality cannot change. He needs to be Mecha Man. But this scene has another implication. Remember at the beginning when Robert threw either water or alcohol onto Flambae? He was dressed as Mecha Man. The two heroes have history beyond that as well. Not revealing himself to be Mecha Man means that Flambae won't know the person who hurt him is the one who's been dispatching him. As soon as I realized this, I thought that I had completely ruined my playthrough. Great, Flambae is going to find out sooner or later, isn't he?
So you can see why I'm worried about getting incinerated.
We all pay for who we used to be. The sooner you get it over with, the sooner we get a fresh start.
In the next episode, they threw a housewarming party for Robert. As the night stops being fun and starts being stressful, Robert's identity gets revealed. His secret wasn't a secret for long.
Wait, Robert's Mecha Man?
But you know who isn't here? Flambae. He shows up late for a gag. He doesn't find out who Robert is when everyone else does. The consequences that I feared would happen didn't happen. Eventually Flambae does find out, but by then the city's under attack and personal differences are set aside. This isn't a story about Robert and Flambae, it's a story about Robert and Invisigal. A lot of the choices in Dispatch are railroaded like this. The authors have already made a decision ahead of time, and the story will play out the way they intend. But the other side of a choice being railroaded is that the story cannot derail. Anytime the player makes a bad choice, it bumps them back onto the track. It's kind of like going bowling with the bumpers on, no gutter balls. It stands out here because Dispatch doesn't hide the way it re-rails its story especially well. And from where I'm sitting, this is where the feeling of the choices not mattering stems from. At one point I failed a hacking challenge to open up a safe, only for it to be open anyway. The minimized role of Sonar or Coupe feels like a way to circumvent a boatload of narrative issues. The game will say a character will remember something, only for it to never be brought up again. But at the same time, it does some clever things with how it handles certain choices. While the player will be focused on seemingly huge decisions, it is secretly measuring a lot of smaller responses to determine if you are an effective leader or not. Saying whether you're Robert or Mecha Man is a destination choice, but not for the obvious reason. It affects Invisigal's arc. It will demonstrate if Robert is honest or not. But for everyone else, it's a journey choice, a way to change how the story plays out while not harming its skeleton whatsoever. Plenty of games take inspiration from the world of film. Cinematic storytelling is a natural fit for a lot of games, and Dispatch is yet another example of a title trying to reconcile these two mediums. What kinds of experiences can a game deliver that a film can't, and vice versa? When I decided to cut Coupe, it was because she had sabotaged two of the other team members. Cutting her was a decision that I made, not Robert. When I showed up to the theater to meet Invisigal, it was because I wanted to go. And when I gave the wrong answer over late night tacos, I wasn't watching Robert make a mistake. I had made a mistake. And yet, Robert was still there. He was doing things and making decisions that I would never think to make. The two of us, player and character, worked together to carve a path through this story. Dispatch presents a seamless collaboration of audience and author. Together, we built a version of Robert that is unique to us. This is a sensation that only a game like Dispatch can deliver. The medium of games is only a few decades old at this point, and I think it's really cool to see all the different ways that ideas can be communicated within it. It's exciting to watch a bunch of creative, talented people figure out how to tell a story with this new dimension of interactivity. Well, in this case, tell a story and a lot of penis jokes. Hey, did you know there's a brand new series over on the Patreon? Because there is. I'm going through a bunch of games released in one of the most important years in gaming history, 2007. Supporting the channel will get you access to this new series, the 2007 Project, as well as a bunch of exclusive videos, and new episodes that are early, uncensored, and ad-free. Patreon.com/I'mADot. Thank you so much for your support.